This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Let's now welcome to the program the Liberal MHA for Buren Grand Bank, and of course the Shadow Minister for Education and Early Childhood Development, or if you prefer, the critic, which we used to call him back in the day, didn't we, Paul? Welcome to the program.
And it's great to hear your voice, by the way, and I think you're well suited for the program. During my time as minister, we had a great many chats, and it was always a pleasure. Very respectful. I thank you for that.
Ditto. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You're more than welcome, and I thank you as well.
So I'm calling in this morning, Brian, about the latest Child and Youth or the Child Death Review Committee, the CDRC.
Yes, sir. And the recommendations. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, the recommendations. I'm sure your listeners are aware, but the recommendations are certainly something that we as a official opposition agree with and support. If you look at the
that's great to hear, by the way. That's just great to hear. Those words coming from the quote unquote opposition. I appreciate it.
Yes, and again, to implement mandatory age-appropriate substance abuse education, that's very important in our school system. Right now, for example, I'd liken it, Brian, to the Kids in the Know program that's currently available in primary schools and in primary curriculum, where which deal with appropriate child and adult interaction and so on. And it's, the level of the content of those particular programs is determined by the grade level. So I like that. And as well, I liken it to the DARE program that we have in our schools. Very successful. And that's very successful and well attended, and certainly given that level of importance in schools that it certainly deserves. But these are types of things that I like in what we're doing with this particular recommendation. The expansion of the naloxone kits to schools and so on, something that's probably overdue. These would also include drug testing strips in the kits to allow users to identify. So that's a good recommendation as well. Enhance and expand drug alert systems for up-to-date relevant drug toxicity. I'd like that as well. And explore initiatives to regulate children's use of social media. That's also very important. And as a former educator, we need to give schools all the necessary tools they need to ensure that children get a well-rounded, education, but also to look at the various look at the impact that some of these things are having on our youth and our society as a whole. And again, we accept the committee's report in full. But we also got to, shout out to the committee as well. I mean, that work is very difficult, Brian, as you can well realize, and we certainly acknowledge that these reviews are difficult. I know back last year, I sat on an all-party committee for mental health and addictions, and I found that as well as my colleagues very difficult because you're dealing with so many real-life issues. You're dealing with various organizations and medical professionals and social workers and people with lived experience and all these things that, at the end of one of these sessions, everybody's looking around and going, whew, we didn't realize this, or we got to do something about this. Or,
heavy stuff.
It is a lot. Yeah, but, that's the naloxone kits is certainly an initiative of our former Liberal government, and free kits are publicly available, to reverse the potentially fatal effects of overdose involving opioids. So, these are things that are important to not only our schools but to society in general. We certainly support expanding the availability of these kits, including to vulnerable youth in our society, which is so important. And I've dealt so much with that in my previous role as Minister of responsible for social development and housing and social development at the time. And there's so many lives saved by these naloxone kits, and that's what we need to be about, is saving lives. And also creating awareness and getting people the right treatments. And I attended a meeting last night, Brian, in my district. It was Joint Towns and Community Council's meeting, and they talked about the problems that we're having in our communities with drug-related issues and so on, and what we could be doing to help, and how we need a treatment center here on the Burin Peninsula and so on. So it was something that's the whole issue of drugs in our communities in rural Newfoundland and Labrador is certainly an issue that comes up at most of these meetings, and it's certainly something that I'm glad to see that our mayors, councillors, and the general public in general is doing their best to work at and to try and find solutions in their areas. Go ahead, Brian. I'm probably talking too much.
No, that's okay. When we talk about age, a couple of things jumped out at me about the committee and the case review and recommendations. We talk about, and we've heard the line, the age-appropriate substance abuse education. I wonder, to what extent parents and others will get a look at this before it enters the curriculum, or how it's going to be taught. I mean, when you're talking about primary, K to 3, it'll be very interesting to see how they can present this kind of very dark and dangerous subject matter to kids at that age, and how they will be able to absorb it. And then I wonder about AI and to what extent that could be. I know there's mention of social media, and trying to explore initiatives to regulate children's use of it. We know that that is a serious health risk. And I mean, when you're talking about a child death review committee, reviewing all the factors that lead to these sorts of things, I just hope there's a good focus on AI when we look at things like happened out in Tumbler Ridge in BC, and the use of ChatGPT and AI, and how it's been certainly brought to task for what it did or didn't do to prevent that incident or other incidents similar. So it'll be good. I'm sure parents will, it's a level of relief that they can hopefully see exactly what they come up with, what kind of curriculum what is added to the curriculum when it comes to quote unquote age appropriate substance abuse education.
Yeah, Brian. When I looked a few days ago at the membership of this committee, they have a physician on there with experience in pediatrics. You have a social worker with experience with youth and family services. You have a police officer with an investigative background. You have a lawyer with specializing in public law. Mm-hmm. You have a nurse with experience with children and women. You have and public health, I should say, sure, as well. You have an advocate with experience in advocacy for women and youth, and you have education with someone with experience in the K to 12 system. So I'm very, I certainly like the makeup of the committee. I think it's going to be a good committee. It's going to do a lot of great work. But you're right. I mean, parents need to be involved in this as well. Hello?
Yep. No, it could be as perfect. Yep. And you're right. All segments of society, the important players are at the table involved with this review. No question about that. Yes. But again, parents are parents, right? And your kids are your kids. And we've seen in the past where a lack of consultation, or just at least keeping them in the know, has not really helped, and has sort of gotten in the way. The pushback over that sort of thing. Even though it could be the best thing since sliced bread, parents are going to want to at least have a look and see what they're going to be taught in the curriculum before it gets there. And I'm sure there's a plan for that. I'm not certainly trying not to throw any kind of cold water on this. It's just it's crucial. And the people who have made the recommendations are more than uber qualified to make them.
Yeah, and yesterday I had an opportunity to speak to a couple of school principals about this, and they had the same types of concerns. How will this be rolled out, and will there be consultation? What is our role going to be, and so on. So there's a lot of work ahead, and how it's presented to parents, as you know, is going to be very important, and to get support for this. So I agree with you. I mean, it's the rollout is going to be important. And I would think that the committee now is looking at how we're going to do that in conjunction with Department of Education and Department of Health.
Sure. Paul, I appreciate it. Thanks. I'm glad to, obviously we've got to discuss this stuff. Our kids and what they're facing, whether it's socials or, the rampant drug problems that we have and other issues, yes. Prepare them for the best to understand what the real world is like and what, any kind of interaction they're going to have with this as they grow up, and the peer pressure and everything else that comes with it. The more, as we always know, knowledge is power.
Yeah, and you can well imagine, as the education critic, as you put it, I certainly will be watching this very closely.
Yeah, okay, no doubt about it. Thanks again, Paul. I appreciate this.
Thanks, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Without further ado, let's go right to our good friend, oil and gas advocate, Rob Strong. You're on the air.
Mr. Callahan, how are you?
Mr. Strong, how are you? It's Brian, of course.
Of course it is. I know that.
I can't get used to that. Here, Master.
Speaking of Callahan, I spent 2 days in Stephenville last week.
Oh, did you?
Is that your old territory?
It's
family territory.
Not grown up family territory. Dad really grew up in the Corner Brook area, Petries area,
okay.
But he was the MHA for that area for Port back in the day. So that's where a lot of our roots were. Shall we say nestled or cultivated or whatever you want to call it? But So Dad originally, born in St. John's, but grew up in Corner Brook, and then of course was the MHA for the area. So that's where all that hails from. No relation to Dave and others.
Your dad had a nickname called Silica Bill. I don't know how many years ago that was.
I haven't heard that one in a long time.
When I saw a little pub at the end of the main street called Callahan's Pub, I thought of you, but obviously it's not you anymore.
No, but if it's a pub, I'm all over it.
But
in a responsible way.
The weather was great.
Oh, yeah. Of course, the best coast, right?
Brian, you guys are always appreciative if I get a chance to call in and talk about some current events going on. So Here I am again. Today, the media, the Calgary Herald, which I read every day, and the National Post I read, all these online, obviously, and the Globe and Mail are all talking about Cenovus, which most of your listeners would know is the former Husky.
Right.
Cenovus reached 1 million barrels of oil a day in production, which is quite a feat when you consider the whole Canadian production is only about 4.5 million barrels a day. So it's quite an event, and it brought to mind, of course, West White Rose, which is Cenovus's latest development. It was built, as many people know, down in Argentia at a cost of, I looked this up, I had no idea. It was cost of $6.1 billion. And this is what we call in the industry a subsea tieback. Yeah. Right. Which means it's a smaller field. It's not the main White Rose field, which is being produced by the floater, the FPSO Sea Rose, but it's a sort of a satellite field, which contains apparently 150 million barrels. And as many people know, it was towed out of Argentia, but it hasn't reached production yet, but expected in sometime the third quarter. So we're getting near production, and of course it's going to add, as I say, 115 million barrels over the next 14 years. So that combined with the enhanced or the increase in production in Western Canada is making Cenovus one of the largest individual producers of oil in Canada, which is a good thing. It's a good thing for Canada. It's a good thing for Cenovus, and if it's good for Cenovus, it's good for Newfoundland. So how do you like that, Luke?
I don't mind this. The realities of energy and the times we're living in right now, I don't have much of a problem with it at all. The need is immediate right now. We all know, for all the obvious reasons, but we also know, Rob, that there are not a lot of people who like even the thought of thinking new fields, more production, in this era of climate change. There's so much on this, but I will note that that caught my attention too, only because, and I didn't actually realize it was Cenovus at first. I was just fishing through something the other day, and I saw the reference to Newfoundland, and then that this is apparently only the second company that's ever reached this milestone, right? In the country, which I found really surprising, given, all the extraction going out in Alberta and elsewhere. But for any oil and gas company, it's only the second that I understand that's eclipsed that $1 million barrel, hit the million barrel a day mark. Sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister.
You're entirely right. Canadian Natural Resources, the other one.
Yes, that's the other company, right?
You're becoming a patty very quickly, Brian. I got to tell you.
I'm becoming myself. No offense.
No, it's a compliment. Believe me.
I appreciate it, but yeah,
West White Rose, as I say, is going to drill between 30 and 35 wells.
Yep.
Over the next 4 or 5 years, and as I say, tie it back. By that I mean, I forget, it's probably 10. I forget, probably 10 or 15 kilometers away from the major field, but it's a drilling platform rather than a production platform, and people get confused. I mean, it's the same thing going on in Beta Nord. Beta Nord right now is 2 fields. The FPSO will produce from one field, and then 34 kilometers away is a second field, and so it will what we call tie back, join up, call it what you want. So it seems to be the sort of new method of production. Once the original reservoir gets depleted, you've still got the production platform out there. But if it's not being maximized, why not try to find some oil close by, and then you drill it and you put a wellhead down, and then you run pipelines back to the platform. So I think that hopefully we'd like to see some more new major developments, but that represents a future for not only the Jeanne d'Arc Basin, but now as we move into the Orphan Basin. So I think that represents a future development for Newfoundland. And again, I go back to Beta Nord, where we're actually still waiting the financial investment. We I guess like many industries, Brian, we use buzzwords. When I say FID,
yes,
we're waiting
final
FID.
Investment decisions.
You and I know that, but the public, the majority public, doesn't know it, nor should they know it. It's not something they talk about every day in their life.
It's rampant, Rob. When I first got into it, the acronyms, boy, I tell you, from people in the know, from people in the industry, how they just throw them back and forth. And I get it, because that's their world. But every now and then, they just don't bother to explain what those acronyms stand for, and it drives me nuts.
Let me throw a couple at you, see how good you are. SURF.
Oh, the sub. No, you got. No, you're going to test me here now.
Yeah.
Damn. No, go ahead. Jeopardy.
Subsea, umbilical,
I was close. Yeah, I was close.
and flow line.
I was close in the first part. The umbilicals, right?
How about OLS?
Nope, not going to go there.
Offshore loading systems. Anyway, I just thought I want to pass on some news on this Cenovus development. It's pretty positive, and you're right. There's only one other company in Canada producing that amount of oil, and now with the potential for a second pipeline out to Vancouver or out to BC, that enhances the capabilities of all the operators in Western Canada to get their oil to market. And then the market for that oil, of course, is Asia.
Right.
It's part of the Carney move to try to get away from having U.S. as your major market. And I think that's a good idea. I think it's important for Canada and all sorts of products, whether it's oil, whether it's potash, whether it's aluminum, whether it's steel.
Yeah.
To start looking elsewhere in the markets when everything is so dependent upon one. So
yeah, and you mentioned the Prime Minister. I'm just wondering what you think of his comments. I think it was just yesterday now. I mean, there was, coming out of the First Minister's meetings, there was a lot of talk, specifically BC Alberta, really on the energy front, whether or not that could be used as leverage, and they were discussing whether or not that hit them where it really hurts the U.S. on the tariff as a response to the tariffs. I noticed the Prime Minister said he doesn't, quote, see the value now in using Canadian energy exports.
No, he's afraid of destroying our reputation as as a reliable supplier of oil and energy products. So that's his decision. Whether it's the right decision or a wrong decision, I'm not quite sure, but we do export probably 4 or 5 million barrels a day into the U.S., and it's very important for Western Canada, and he has chosen not to use it as leverage. I don't know if Mr. Trump would do the same thing to Canada, but thank God we're not Mr. Trump.
Oh my God, we have no idea what he's going to do next, and you can't believe it anyway. What comes out of the mouth? Going back to the tiebacks, though, look, when I first looked in, Beta Nord might not be happening if that technology didn't exist. I mean, I think you would agree. Like this whole technology, I can only imagine how the industry reacted when this started to become more than just talk and more of a reality. And it might not work in every field, but this whole subsea oil and gas, like the wells, tying back to existing production platforms, instead of having to set up something in every individual swath or every individual block of offshore land and find ways to extract it for the individual, these subsea tiebacks. And not only that, it's probably going to benefit our province even more in the sense that, rather than the FPSO for this, they decided to go down this road, and we may get the bulk of that work because it's not creating topsides and massive platforms that maybe our deep sea ports and our infrastructure here in the province could handle. We can handle projects that may create, or just the subsea, the lines and that carry the power and the control signals and the chemicals and everything else they need, right?
You're entirely correct, and remember that if we're talking about, for instance, West White Rose, we're only talking about 120 million barrels. Yeah. And 120 million barrels doesn't justify the capital cost of a major development. Same with the Beta Nord field. Actually, there are 5 fields in Beta Nord, and collectively they justify a major FPSO, but individually they don't. So you're entirely correct that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we had our first one offshore Newfoundland about 10 years ago now, called the Hibernia Southern Extension, and it added 200 million barrels to the overall field development for Hibernia. But again, 200 million barrels is not enough to justify in the case of Hibernia, probably a $15-20 billion production platform. So it's good for Newfoundland's oil and gas industry to see these subsea tiebacks. Not that I don't want to see another major development in maybe the Flemish Pass or maybe the Orphan Basin, because there is some acreage coming up for bid in November. Some new acreage coming up in the Orphan Basin, and people are, Orphan Basin basically is sort of a northeast extension of the Jeanne d'Arc Basin. So these are geological areas, and there many years, not many years ago, but about 7 or 8 years ago, there was an oil company made a work expenditure commitment of over $800 million to drill on the Orphan Basin. So we're pretty optimistic. We're pretty bullish. Or at least I am. Of course, I've been that way for 40 years. So.
It's just so volatile, though, now, right, Rob? I mean, where are we going? It like the immediate pressure, given the Iran war, and it's not letting up, and it's even, ramped up again last night, and surprise attacks, and still Saudi involved, and then it inched into the Red Sea and the Houthis. The volatility there is not getting any better, and it shows in the price of a barrel of oil and the gas at the pumps. But, trying to, speculation and planning for whether or not these things can be ultimately, first of all, needed and necessary, but also whether or not they can be made financially viable. And we know that Beta Nord, they paused it for that very reason. They found that, we got to find another way, and the tiebacks ended up being the way. And so... Yeah.
And, redesign, rethinking... better understanding of what the reservoir looked like, but you're right on the volatility. When I started this conversation, the price of oil was $90.89, and now it's down to $88.59. So the volatility is not just on a day-to-day basis, it's on almost a minute-to-minute basis, and Canada represents a secure source of crude. The 20 or 30 million barrels of oil a day coming from out of the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz is not secure anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that we have going for us is security of supply, and that's what the marketplace wants. The marketplace doesn't want to be faced with prices going up and down like a yo-yo. So
that's right.
Hopefully we can do it and do it responsibly, because I'm no different than anybody else. I have to breathe the air. I have to
pass this on to our grandkids.
Sure. So let's make sure we do it responsibly.
Couldn't agree more, Rob. Look, I always appreciate the chat. I'll brush up on my acronyms. I just hate being put on.
Okay, get ready for the next test.
Okay, and then we'll find one. Let's see, on sports, and we'll have a trivia on one on that one.
I'll let you win on that one. Okay, great to talk to you, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Let's go right to line number 4, and welcome to the program, the Executive Director of Choices for Youth, Jen Crow. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Thanks for being available this morning. I feel like I'm in a bit of catch-up mode because I saw the announcement there. Well, there was the Integrated Youth Services Hub with Beckett Labrador in partnership with the Labrador Friendship Center. I saw the announcement. I saw some of it on the news and that sort of thing. And, it gets busy, and I've been meaning to reach back out and see what we can talk about here. But just tell me all about this venture. I know that the expansion of youth Choices for Youth continues, which we just can't have enough today. So it's great to see that. But tell me about the Labrador venture with Beckett Labrador.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. I appreciate you making the time. I recognize you guys are incredibly busy as well. So, yeah, certainly. So in St. John's today, Choices for Youth, we're a youth-serving nonprofit organization focused on addressing youth homelessness and improving youth well-being. And today we are operating a hub site which combines primary care, mental health, housing, employment, and community-based supports all under one roof. And so the idea is that a young person can come in and they can get a hot meal, they can wait a couple minutes and see a physician just 5 steps to the right. They can see a therapist on site, like within the hour. They're able to access family-based supports, get help with applying for a job, and get help with housing. So it's really a one-stop shop. And for the last decade, we've been working towards what could this model look like in other parts of the province. And the problem we're trying to solve for, frankly, is that we see upwards of 30% of the youth who we serve in St. John's have recently arrived in the city, most of them to access services. Yeah. So our kind of philosophy is that these young people are much better supported if they can be supported closer to home. So the idea with the growth of this model, Integrated Youth Services, and we call it here in Newfoundland and Labrador Beckett, which, by the way, is the Beothuk word for where you go.
Thank you.
Young people came up with that name.
You just answered that next question. Acronyms and those names are always a bee in my bonnet, so thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been working very hard with community partners across the province and young people to co-design a model over the last decade. So happy to now be operating a new hub site in Corner Brook in partnership with Vine Place Community Center. That's been going incredibly well. They've served over 100 young people in just about 3.5 months. So very, very impressive, and lots of need there, but also now we have adequate supports for those young people. And now, as of last week, we were so pleased to announce another hub site in Happy Valley Goose Bay that will serve Labrador. And, in addition to that, Brian, I'll just mention, we've also launched an expression of interest for 2 more hub sites. And that's something I really want to stress to your listeners, that if there are community organizations, municipalities, Indigenous governments, post-secondary institutions that would like to see a Beckett Integrated Youth Services Hub in their community, now's your opportunity. We are actively looking to grow to central Newfoundland, and eastern rural Newfoundland too. So there is an opportunity for you to apply for your own Beckett hub site too.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, the partnerships are everything, right? In concert with such as the Labrador Friendship Center, just being one example. Jen, you're about 2 years, by my count, in the position. And I remember, because, obviously Sheldon Pollitt was a great former executive director. We had, great communication, and equally so with you, maybe even more. Sorry, Sheldon. But I know that at the time, and I did some interviews, I may have even been there for that one, but we were talking about, how the numbers had changed, the youth seeking and in need of this kind of, access to whatever, as you just said, right? Whether it's the housing, whether it's the primary health care, mental health supports, community connections. And at the time, I think we were talking, there was, when he began, it was like 45 young people that needed transitional housing. And when you took over, I think it was up to to 1,400 a year, and that was in 2024. Can you give me any insight as to how it's, I hope it's not grown too much, but I mean what the numbers are like now?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you referenced, when I came into the role there a couple of years ago, we had unfortunately been on the receiving end of a reduction in funding from the federal government. So we did have to shrink our services a little bit at that time. But today we are supporting about 1,200 children and youth, I should say. And, you know, I think what we're seeing in terms of the challenges, Brian, two things I'll highlight. One of which is we've seen such an increase in homelessness. And certainly our friends at End Homelessness St. John's have really compelling data and concerning data on this topic, but we certainly have seen an increase in homelessness across the board, all ages, but that certainly does include young people over the last several years. And you know, the second thing I'll mention is, and these two things are absolutely related, is we've also seen an increase in mental health challenges. So I often say, you know, if you're somebody who tonight you don't know where you're going to lay your head to rest, you don't know if that's going to be on a park bench or maybe couch surfing on someone's couch or in an emergency shelter, your mental well-being is not going to be good. That's just a reality. So we really do see that correlation between youth who are struggling with mental health challenges and those who are struggling with homelessness. And I will say, though, like, there is optimism, there is hope. One of the things that we do at Choices for Youth is we do longitudinal data collection. So we can actually see that for those youth who are homeless who come to Choices, within a year, 81% of them achieve housing stability, and they're able to maintain that housing stability too. And then similarly, we see, you know, of the youth who are struggling with their mental health issues, 63% of them improve their mental health within a year too. So there is hope, there is optimism. We need to continue to invest in what works. And I am really hopeful by the fact that we're able to forge such strong relationships with, as you say, you know, Vine Place Community Center, the Labrador Friendship Center, and that list continues to grow, to be able to bring these needed services to other parts of the province. Because no matter how good we are at what we do in St. John's, we know that most young people want to stay closer to the places they call home. And that's something we really want to promote. And so if we see, you know, a 20% reduction in the number of youth who we support in St. John's because those young people are getting better served closer to the places they call home, in my mind, that's a huge win.
Yeah, and it's even more important and significant when we're talking about Indigenous kids, Indigenous youth who we know, whether it's Indigenous youth or adults, you know, when you're pulled away from your community, your culture, your land, you know, where you feel safe, where you grew up, and the people around you that make you feel comfortable, as opposed to, say, I'm going to go off to St. John's because there's better opportunity maybe for housing. I can probably group up with somebody, or, you know, we can share something. You're right. I mean, not having to go down that road obviously stays. It's common sense, but it's a tough one to crack. And I'm just wondering, I know there used to be, is there much of a wait list now?
Yeah, for our services, you know, we offer a ton of different programs.
I should
so
say
I'll just
how
give you
much.
a sense for.
Sorry.
Yeah, for housing, we have over 100 young people on our wait list at any given time. So we are always at capacity. Sometimes we get asked, like, oh, do you have a spot? And I can almost say with confidence, no, unfortunately, because for all of our housing, we are at capacity and do have a very lengthy wait list, like I said, over 100 people. Having said that, Brian, you know, we're always looking for innovative solutions. So we're actively working on 2 different housing projects right now, one of which is an intergenerational housing project with Connections for Seniors and Raising the Roof. It's a Raising the Roof owned building on Duckworth Street, or will be, I should say. And you know, these are some of the things that we want to continue to invest in. Is we know what the problems are, we also know what the solutions are. So how do we make sure we're continuing to drive in that direction? And I think the most important thing for us is also just making sure that we are not exclusively focusing on St. John's, rather that this has to be it's a provincial problem. We need to implement provincial solutions, and that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with partners across the province through Beckett.
I can't imagine where we would be without Choices for Youth, and I come from a bit of the experience of courts, right? I mean, I regularly hear the kids or people who were youth and they got into the adult system, and a lot of times in a sentencing they'll get into, you know, how this person, this youth or this 20-year-old ended up the way they are, whether it's addictions, whether it's homeless, whether it's crime. And more often than not, you know, you hear the testimonials and the anecdotal evidence that Choices for Youth were there for them and did everything they could, and without them they'd probably be in worse situations. And the kids that they are saving, you hear the stories and how important it is to our community. So hats off. The energy that you have and the passion for this, we should all have it. And, there'll be less young kids on the street. It's tough. There are, family situations that are unavoidable, and they're left in these situations to fend for their own in many cases, right? And without you guys there, and I hear it all the time, especially down in courts, how important it is, There are kids slipping through the cracks, but you're helping close those gaps and cracks every single day. So just from what I'm hearing in the courts, I just wanted to pass that on myself.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Brian. And, I think as this model grows to other parts of Newfoundland and Labrador, I think, there's some questions around what does this mean? And, does this increase the rates of substance use and violent activity? And my answer quite clearly would be no. This model has been proven to actually reduce the rates of young people who are involved in the criminal justice system because we create the conditions for stability, right? If young people have the housing that they need, if they have mental health supports, if they have a way to gain an income through employment or going back to school, the chances of them engaging in criminal activity are a lot lower. So we need to prevent those pieces, those escalating situations from escalating further, as you say. And, this is not a silver bullet, but it's part of the solution, and we're really proud to be partnering with agencies to be able to offer this very soon in Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Yeah, and we know for a fact that if these youth know somebody really deeply cares, there's someone there working on my behalf, they're cared. Once they get that mindset, that the independent mindset that says this person actually cares, okay, they care about me, so I have some worth now. Anyway, we could go all day on this. It's a big topic for me, and I know just a little bit of a big one for you. So, Jen, thanks a lot for the time today and the great work that you do, that Choices for Youth does, and the expansion continues. So, onward and upward.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Line number 2, Marina, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
I was really energized by listening to Jennifer Crow this morning. I think it's a brilliant approach. And I wanted to change hats a little bit this morning and talk about a little bit my experiences in youth addiction and what worked and maybe what didn't work. One of the things I've been asking myself for quite some time is if there is such a thing as a youth addiction stabilization program here in Newfoundland. I haven't really found one, but there could be something like that.
Right. I haven't looked, you're just mentioning it now, so I haven't really delved into that. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to talk a little bit about that program. So about, 10 years ago, I was approached. I was an active duty paramedic. And once you've gained a little bit of field experience, they try to channel you into sort of other areas. And this particular area was a community paramedicine role. Mm-hmm. Winnipeg has been quite innovative with the Main Street Project, which was the first wet housing project we had in Winnipeg, and it's proven to be quite an effective program. But after that creation, we realized that youth that were being apprehended under the Intoxicated Persons Detention Act were kind of going to youth jail and being monitored there. And a decision was made through the courts that really wasn't an appropriate place. Incarcerating youth, the same way we don't incarcerate adults necessarily, there's a special act for that. So the creation of the Youth Addiction Stabilization Unit, the acronym being YASU, was created, and I was one of the first people who started. And it was a really terrific learning experience for me. It was a multidisciplinary team, psychiatric nurses, addiction specialists, social workers, family support, and of course the paramedics. And it was comprised of 2 units. So one was the IPTA, or the Intoxicated Persons Detention Unit, where police would basically show up with someone that they had found from the age of 11 to 17, intoxicated and unable to, find a safe place for them to go. So they would bring them to us. I was the paramedic doing the physical assessments, and my partner would always be a social work professional of some kind who would work on, okay, who are we going to release this youth to? What are their current charges, if there are any? How do we navigate that? And I was strictly focused on any injuries, particularly what drugs or alcohol they were on, the volume, and really doing careful assessments about injury because, as we know, the coincidence of substance abuse, alcohol consumption, and head trauma are huge, right? And we can't miss those. So it was also a bit of a triage. If further injuries were found or there was something not right, then the paramedic would reroute that patient back to the ER to be reassessed. But most of the times we were able to hang on to kids. And they stayed with us in an observation unit for up to 24 hours, as the law allowed. They had to be completely sober. We needed to do very regular checks. It blew my mind. Someone who is on a 3.0 alcohol reading is usually the equivalent of someone under general anesthesia. And I would have kids at a 3.0 reading who were still talking and walking. So it tells you a little bit about how the body can adapt, right? The other thing I noticed was youth have the same problems adults do. They're just younger. Yeah, the pain is the same. The trauma, whatever reasons that they're consuming are there. And, of course, it's much more dangerous. Every year there's new stuff, there's new mixes, there's novel opioids, there's all that stuff out there, which is killing people faster. And, unfortunately, youth are kind of where it starts, right?
Yeah. It does. It starts early with everything, and then depending on the direction you go, it either gets easier or harder as you go.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when I would speak to youth, I would say, like, you're entering a system that doesn't just, when you touch it, it chews up your finger. And then the next time it chews you up to the wrist. No, this is something where when you touch it, it'll chew you up right up to your shoulder. It'll take your arm off very quickly. And unfortunately, because of the mental health, comorbidity here, a lot of times the response was, I don't care. Because they really felt defeated, right? They have no other choices. They know they're in a bad way. So it taught me compassion as well. As a paramedic, we are, really top-notch when it comes to the physical systems and understanding what the body is happening and what we need to do to sustain life. But the whole psychiatric component was, really lightly touched for us. And working with psychiatric nurses, I learned so much about the withdrawal process, about what's happening with their bodies. So in my unit, I would keep them up to 24 hours, and then they were either released to a responsible adult, the organization with whom they were housed, et cetera, et cetera. But the kids also had the choice to voluntarily attend a stabilization unit, which was adjacent to our sector of the building. And it was amazing. A lot of them chose. They needed the stabilization. It's not quitting. It's basically letting your body recover and at the same time delivering a curriculum, education, dropping information with an eyedropper and hoping it takes root. And it was really effective. Now, the other side of that was the involuntary unit, which was always busy. And those kids came in from invitation of the court. So basically, it was deemed by professionals that this person was no longer coping, highly at risk, really off the rails at that point. And so the decision we made to put an order out, it wasn't easy to obtain. Intake was quite strict. However, once obtained, then RCMP or the Winnipeg Police were able to go and apprehend and then bring them to the unit. And then there was an intake process, and then they were assigned a room, very comfortable setting, very private rooms, TV, PlayStations. But a big part of the day was also curriculum. It was rest, curriculum, and then more rest kind of thing. After 7 days, there was a discharge plan, and that usually involved following up with family because, all the focus is on the addict. However, there's a whole system there, right? That's probably not working ideally, and people have accommodated to the addiction. So, and especially parents, they need to be brought in and sort of retaught, right?
It can't be normalized, right? In any way.
It isn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of times parents were shocked. Well, I don't have the problem, and we're not saying that. What we're saying is this is how this works. I would tell kids, pretend you're in a movie. You're floating above your body, okay? You're up there somewhere disassociated, and you're looking down at the scene. Well, you'll notice that everybody is doing exactly what they're supposed to do to sustain this system, right? The addict is doing whatever they need to do to get what they want.
That's right.
Everyone else is sort of enabling or functioning or guilting or doing whatever they do. My whole point here, I don't want to take up too much time, is that it was a really effective program, and it's grown quite a bit since. It morphed into a more holistic wraparound concept for mental health and substance abuse youth. In ERs, for example, in middle and northern Manitoba, we now have a wraparound system that up to age 24 years old, I believe, right? Yeah. I was doing some research on the Beckett program, and that is up to 29 years old, which is really fantastic. 12
to 29, right? I think, yeah. So it captures that age, just because you're beyond your teens or early 20s, the maturity goes out the window now. It's about the addiction and what you've had to endure and live with for the past 20 years or more.
Yeah, and what we need to realize, too, is someone started consuming, intoxicants at around 14. And now they're 24 or 25. There is a halting of the maturity system. The brain, there's a certain amount of the brain development and maturity that doesn't happen in those gap years. Yep. And so you now have a 25-year-old mentating kind of like a 14-year-old. And that's normal. That is a result of the addiction process, and it's a huge learning lesson. It's a huge amount of information to process and digest at 24 years old that, hey, I'm missing these parts, right, in my psyche. Your
normal development has been paused or interrupted or stagnant. It's stalled, and it's been regressing because of, the intoxicants, right? There's no progress anymore. So it just, it takes that whole chunk. Yes, you're right, Marina. I really got to get off the break, but just quickly, if you'd like to clue up, I'm sorry, but very informative and a great dovetail onto what Jane Crow was talking about.
Yeah, and I'd love to see that here in Newfoundland. I really would.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Keep the lobby, and I mean, look, there's room for look, anything that works. You know it, right? It'll be welcomed.
Anything that works, absolutely. Have a great day. Thank you.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Let's go right to line number 2, and Edward, you're around the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
How are you?
It's a loaded question. Let's see, it's Thursday, so we're past the halfway mark.
That's true, Brian.
No, I joke. Look, this is...
I know you do, and I do too at times, but right now, for the last 3 or 4 years, I hadn't anything to joke about, Brian.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Edward. What's on the go?
Well, my wife, who died from MAID in November.
I'm sorry to hear.
Yes, who would never have went that way if she wasn't so abused at a long-term care facility here in the city. And it was the most horrifying thing for me to have to stand by and watch her leave me after 57 years together. We met at 14 and married at 18, and altogether 57 years. And the way she was treated, it was all neglect and abuse, and it was physically, emotionally, sexually, etc. And reported to the head nurse, nurse managers, right to top administration, and for special agencies who promised to investigate and get back to me in 2 to 3 months. And now, 13 months later, still nothing back. For agencies that was well designed to protect our most vulnerable in our beautiful province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And they have failed us miserably because no one is protected as far as I'm concerned, after what I saw at that home.
Absolutely. How could you feel any differently if you've been through that, and to see someone you spent pretty much your entire life with as your life partner,
exactly.
for it to end up like that after that many years? That's just cruel and unusual punishment. Edward, was this public or private setting, long-term care?
Government.
So it was, yeah, okay. And you have gone through the proper channels. And it's been
all of it. It was reported from the lowest to the top, and for 1 week after the last time I reported, they treated her like a queen for about 3 days, and then they went right back just to make everybody think, or me and my son, and had visitors like every time I could get there, because I'm in a wheelchair myself, and I moved from my previous place a year later to right across the road from that place.
To be as close as possible.
Exactly. And even then, like, I had to call for a taxi to take me over, like, would have only cost me $5, and I always gave them a lot more than that.
Sure.
Because of their care for me, and some of them wheeled me right up to her room, and if not, the security guards who I made the best kind of friends out of would do the same for me.
Well, it sounds like they were in a good place as far as, good intentions. I mean, is it, we often hear that the staff are the gems of the system, right? That it's the system itself that they're up against, and they can't do everything they want to do, and the frustration is real. But, you're saying some of the staff were okay and others? I'm just trying to get an idea. Like, did you... I hate to...
75% of the staff were not okay.
Okay.
The other 25 were the best kind and treated her like a human being, not like some zoo animal.
It's a hard way to have to put it, but I don't doubt it all. I have no doubt.
That's the only way I can put it. That's the only way I feel about it all.
No, there's no way in the world I'm going to even suggest you're exaggerating. It's not. Just no way.
No.
What you've been through and what your partner has been through or went through, and what a sad, just unfair way to have that life end. For your partner, I'm wondering, did you ever witness this kind of stuff going on, or how was it reported to you, or how were you brought? Did she tell you about it, or?
I witnessed things, and at times I used to tell her to keep her phone open, and I would have my phone open and plus the house phone and speaker, and I could hear everything that they were saying to her. Oh my God, it was absolutely crazy to think. And I mentioned it too when I asked for a meeting with the top administrator, and he brought in the nurse manager and the head nurse and all those people, and I mentioned that they were shouting at her, and I heard her say, I doubt that any one of my staff was shouting at her, and I'm like, come off it, why doubt it? And I showed the pictures that I took, me and my son took, of the physical abuse that was left on her arm, 2 huge bruises on each side, and we had 4 fingernails, fingernail gone down through the skin with the blood brought through. And I've still got those pictures. And my son still has them, and we even got them, time stamped. It was, and the one that she, accused of doing it, and she had her right mind, denied everything, and they found no proof, they said, and they had the proof in front of them that either her or some other person, which she said to me and Nana, that it was not her, but she knows the person who did it. So if she knew the person who did it, why didn't she report it?
Well, you can kind of, make some pretty common sense assumptions as to why not to go down, whether or not you're protecting a coworker, whether or not you're protecting yourself because you might have been on the same shift and could end up shouldering some of the blame. Who knows? Yeah. Edward, I'm just trying to get my head around where it is right now. I've covered too many of these long-term care cases. I remember the one in Bay Roberts where there was one of actually 2 fake nurses that were going through the courts. The other one is still being dealt with. But this gentleman out in Bay Roberts at the home out there back in, oh my goodness, that was 2021, I think. And he was accused of, assaulting an elderly man under his care, sexually assaulting, actually. I do recall.
I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, and and only recently, of course, we had this LPN out in Central taking pictures of a person.
I know her very well. Believe me, I know her very well.
You mean the LPN or the patient that had pictures taken of them?
Not him, so much, but I knew her, very well because she was my mother's practical nurse.
Okay, yeah, and that the Newfoundland Labrador College of Nurses issued this public release identifying her. Trina Noble was the name of the LPN, so it's public knowledge. All media have reported that.
That's what I mean. Like, when not mentioning names and things like that, but when it's already announced, you can't help but say it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and she was suspended for 6 months, ordered to pay $4,000.
And should have been fired there and then on the spot, and never be allowed to practice nursing ever again.
Well,
that's my opinion.
Oh no, absolutely, and I doubt many people would disagree with you. In the real life, in the real world, she's been ordered to complete courses and educational steps to win back her license. So she could still very well practice again. Although that mindset, I don't know if that, any course can help with that, especially, as an adult. You're not learning necessarily at that point. That's a mindset. But like if you're in that kind of long-term care setting and you're trying to give people like your wife of 57 years, the best possible care in the waning days of life, make it the most comfortable and best possible experience given the situation.
That's what they had promised me and my son when she was taken from, our condo.
Yeah.
And, by Hamilton carried over to health sciences. That doesn't matter about that because, everybody knows where they take them. And within, the next day, they had her, convinced to go into, that home.
Edward, only because I'm a little past the break, and that's just part of the business here. Can you tell me, just remind me again, so you've had contacts with this, was there a formal investigation, or what? It's been 13 months now, it was supposed to be just a couple, or a few months?
That's what they told me, it was going to be a formal investigation, they would get back to me within 2 to 3 months, and I tried calling Layla Evans, and she's inundated with so many calls. It would be forever before, I could, get through to her. But I can sense her compassion and empathy just looking at her eyes on TV. That lady is hurting for us all. If all elected officials, past and present, and our new premier could do the same thing, our healthcare system and all that would change drastically.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I echo your sentiments on Minister Evans. When you say they said they'd get back to me, is there an individual that said they would, or is this just a department, or is it NL Health Services, or
all four, ladies?
All four
told me they would be, immediately launching a formal investigation and get back to me within 2 to 3 months.
And that's the Department of Health, is it?
Yeah, and
NL Health Services.
All of them. Like it was the, oh my God, elder abuse one.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
There was, all four, that was touted to, to look into all this.
And not a word since when?
And since last June.
Oh my God! So it's been more than a year, and they said they'd get back in a few months.
13 months now.
Okay. Do you have anyone on your behalf, an advocate? Have you contacted your MHA?
I tried more times than I got toes and fingers.
Who's your MHA?
Oh my God! No,
or what part of the province are you living? You don't have to say too much, but I mean, are you in Central itself?
No, East End of St. John's.
Oh, the East End. Okay, so probably Sheila O'Leary, if it's St. John's East Kitty Vitty. I can't imagine that, or it could be, I'm just saying that if you say the East End, but it may not very well. But if it isn't, Sheila, someone will be able to find out. Maybe you can give Dave your address there or your street, and I can find that out for you. And we can even just give a flick to the MHA. I'm sure they're listening. I'm sure they're aware. But, that's probably your best immediate stop, just to see if you can get some kind of cut through the red tape or make contact with someone in the bureaucracy. I got to get going here now, Edward, but look, I appreciate this.
Listen, one other thing.
Yeah.
My biggest regret was moving from our beautiful hometown of Lassie, or DeSalle, and moving to the city, and so that we could provide our one and only son with a better opportunity we would ever have, and which he accomplished, and he's at the top of the line offshore.
Wow.
Which I am so proud of.
Well, look, take that. The purpose of moving in, and if that accomplished it, look, that's the goal we all shoot for, right? To see our...
That's fine.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I might call again another day.
Edward, I hope you do. And in the meantime, we'll get on this. We got your number here, so I'm sure someone will be aware of what we're talking about, and we'll make sure
I'm sure.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's lots of people in the sea everyone in that area listens to,
yes.
Every morning.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Okay, well, look, going to get Dave just to make sure we have an idea where you live, like where you are now, who exactly your MHA is, and we'll even make contact on the odd chance that they haven't been listening to Open Line today, which I can't imagine. And Edward, look, I wish you nothing but the best. I'm so sorry. Look, my parents were together for more than 60 years, so you just see that develop. It's a bond unlike any other, and you just we can't let these relationships end like this through, out of your hands and in an abuse situation. It's just horrific for anyone to have their life and quality of life go down that kind of road until the bitter end. It's just not fair, and especially for anyone all the years and devotion and, just being a good person. Anyway, Edward, look, we'll look into it, and we'll reach back out to you if we can find the MHA, or we'll get the MHA to contact you.
All right. I pray that Layla herself is listening to this morning.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
And let's get her going right away on line number one. Barry Fordham, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem at all. Anytime, Barry. I was worried that we wouldn't talk as much as we used to since you kind of stepped away from the position with the food fishery, but I know you're not going to leave it there, are you?
No, I can't help myself, Brian.
I can't imagine.
The reason why I'm calling this morning, Brian, is about the letter that the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador has issued to the Minister.
Yes, sir.
So as you and your listeners already know, I've stepped down from the Food Fisheries Committee, but I'm still a member of the Food Fishery Fighters. And this morning I'm expressing my own personal opinions.
Sure. Go right ahead.
So I'm calling about the press release that the Food Fisheries Committee has issued earlier the week regarding the proposed extension for a 7-day fishing week with a 15-fish weekly limit for the month of August. As we know, the food fishers on the south and west coast have already lost a lot of time already due to the weather, the high winds and that, Brian. And they're choosing to stay ashore because of the risk that is to themselves if they have to try to go out in this bad weather. Each person who is of the appropriate age, whatever their age is, I don't know, is allocated 15 fish weekly as it stands now. So there's already an allocation for the south and west coast. It's nothing new. As we've said before, 15 fish is 15 fish no matter what days of the week they're caught. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. This proposal is being supported not only by us, peasants, as we feel that we are because of the way we're being treated, peasants. But now, by the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador, who issued a release and is agreeing with the Food Fisheries Committee. The Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador has written a letter to Minister Thompson supporting our proposal. Our own provincial colleagues, Brian, are agreeing with us. So as Merv mentioned earlier, she can use her ministerial discretion to make the needed change. Why does she say that we have to wait till next year? Why can't we do it now? And Brian, you mentioned when Merv was talking to you about it, you mentioned that the minister has a lot on her plate, and no doubt she does. But she's not ignoring the other people's like she is with us. And we feel that we are being ignored, and proof's in the pudding, Brian.
Yeah, and I certainly never meant to suggest that, because she has a lot on her plate that we should be ignored or anyone should get any less attention. It's just that it's a big department, and we always have to remember that there's always other stuff going on. But no, I mean, look, let's face it. We always thought that having a fisheries minister from Newfoundland and Labrador would give us at least someone with on the ground, good context, understanding of the situation, understanding of what we face here, weather-wise, and all the other things that come up. I'm not saying she doesn't, the minister. I'm just saying that, that was always our hope, right? When there was a minister appointed from another province, we always felt we'd probably get the short end of it. But we have someone in our corner there, right? So you would think and hope that this is high on her agenda, and she said in no uncertain terms that things are where they are right now, but you're hoping, I guess, that you get more people on board on your side, whether it's the Liberal, of course, party here and the Liberal party up there. So you think that could be a distinct advantage, Barry?
Brian, we got to hope for something, Brian. We got to hope for something, and I am a positive person, no matter how ridiculously negative it could be, but...
Yeah, I welcome that.
I have to be positive. And, not only the Liberals sent this letter of support this time, but earlier this summer, the Liberals and Progressive PCs and NDP all agreed with the Food Fisheries Committee and Food Fishery Fighters about the extension for the South and West Coast.
Yeah. Have you been in touch? Was there any coordination with the Liberal Party here? Or was that out of the blue, or were you expecting it? Or, I know we're always talking and, everybody's been sharing their opinion, but did you know a formal letter would be sent off?
No, because as I said, Brian, I've stepped down in this, and the matters now are with the committee to decide, and we'd find out after.
Yeah, and Barry, as you know, and I don't know any of the circumstances, we've had, at least we had the tragedy up off the Baver Peninsula, of course, a couple of weeks ago, and now, or just over a week ago, and now another fatality on the West Coast. Someone went into water. I don't know all the circumstances of that one. I'm just saying it's a West Coast thing, and here we're seeking more time for the fishery, a 7-day as opposed to 3-day, which kind of limits when you can go out and may or may not entice people to go out when it's not the best conditions. Again, not speaking to that, but I do know anytime we have a fatality on the water, we wonder what went wrong, where was the safety, what could have been prevented, on and on, right?
Yes, indeed. I just caught the tail end of that news report this morning, Brian. Was that fishers for the food fishers or the commercial fishers?
As again, I don't have all of it in front of me yet. I know that the RCMP have a news conference this morning. Maybe they can shed light. I don't have... let's see. I got a bunch of notes from different people, so when I'm forking through my email, I don't have that offhand. Pardon me?
Not that it matters whether it's commercial or food fisher. I just thought there'd be the difference. That's all.
Yeah, which is why I broadly said, safety on the safety on the water, right? I mean, it's just yeah. So there it is. But Barry, look, to what else can you do, really? I mean, I don't know if we just need the minister to speak to it again. I'm sure you heard when she was on the program just a couple of weeks ago that it was kind of a final decision. But is there anything that could force a hand that might get, what more can you do?
Well, as Merv said earlier this week to you, Brian, and I said before as well earlier this summer, is that the minister made a ministerial discretion and opened the food fishery for 2 extra weekends last year due to the wildfires, and that was an overnight decision. So why can't you make an overnight decision now?
Well, I guess the circumstances are different. Those are different reasons. Whether or not one is more, a better case than others for making those changes. I mean, they are different circumstances, right? Obviously, so I can't speak to it. That would be the question for her. But they're just two different reasons. Obviously, the wildfires would have been. An extenuating circumstance, that's for sure. One thing that came up last year out of the blue and that struck us all shockingly, as opposed to, we always know the hazards with going fishing, whether it's recreational, commercial, or otherwise.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Brian, I'd like to touch on one other thing about the safety aspect.
Sure.
That's about life jackets.
Yeah.
As you may or may not know, it's not a legal requirement to wear a life jacket in boat, but it is a legal requirement to have a life jacket on board for each person. But to be more precise, Brian, the life jacket must be of appropriate size and fit for each person. Mm-hmm. And as well, I lost the train of thought.
No, it's okay.
As well, Brian. If the life jacket has a rip or tear in it, the life jacket is no more good. It's void, yeah. and if you sew it up, it's still void. So you can be charged for it if the life jacket's in hard shape. Yeah.
You know as well as I do, Barry. There's more life jackets sitting in the corner of the boat, or underneath a plank or something like that. That you really don't believe it can happen until it does. And just going back, I just found the little note found the little note on the boating accident on Gillam's Pond on the West Coast Monday night it was. So they were contacted. Police, RNC actually, Corner Brook were contacted around 8:30 at night. 2 men in a boat in the water, boat overturned. One of them was rescued by onlookers and taken to hospital for treatment. And of course, the Bay of Islands Search and Rescue were called in and to search for the second man, and his body was located Tuesday morning. But that's the extent of what I have. There's nothing else as to what the purpose was or what they were doing. But 2 men in an open boat out on the water. I mean, I never want to assume anything because you know what happens when you assume. You make a you-know-what out of you and me.
Indeed.
But,
Indeed.
Certainly the indications are they're on the boat, on the water in a boat together. They could very well have been fishing. I don't know. But, the detail of that will come out at another time. And whether or not there are life jackets, Barry, I can't tell you how many videos I've seen that have been sent to me with just the boys in the boat, hauling up whether or not they're hauling up the nets or the rake for the scallops or whatever it is. There's not a life jacket in sight, and it's almost it still is an afterthought despite the tragedies, the senseless tragedies that continue to haunt us.
There are more and more people, though, that are wearing life jackets these days. You get on Kitty Vitty, Goss to watch the food fish going out, the majority of them are wearing life jackets. So the public education is starting to catch on, but still there is a lack, right?
Yeah.
Brian, I just want to mention that this coming week is a Witless Bay Days Festival, and on Saturday I'm going up to Witless Bay in representing Sharing the Harvest, and I understand that the food fishers in Witless Bay and surrounding areas are going to be making a donation of codfish to Sharing the Harvest, in which I will then take processed and freeze and then delivered to the food banks.
Nice.
I've already delivered about almost 50 packages to senior citizens around St. John's in Greater St. John's area.
Right on. That's great, Barry. And I should have mentioned that you may have stepped away from the Food Fishery Committee, and Merv's taken the reins there, Merv Wiseman. But they're sharing the harvest. Yes, absolutely. I mean, he's some people say, "Geez, but you got Merv on all the time." Well, that's just because of his advocacy, and he wants to rescue safety, water safety. Is number one, man. That's been his job and his vocation. And he does an incredible job at it, and he has more experience in that realm than most of us, going back to the Subsea Center, the Rescue Center in St. John's, which he lobbied hard for and saved, got returned. I'll give him a lot of credit for that, as well as, some of the people who listened back in the day. And Barry, just going back to a question you mentioned right off top, not really mentioned it, but in passing you mentioned, not sure about, I'm sure you are aware, but children and youth, there's no real age limit for the recreational ground fishery. I mean, children and youth of any age can partake, obviously with the proper safety and life jackets present, of course.
Yes, that's right. I think that the child has to be able to stand and pull the line. There's no age limit or anything like that on it.
Yeah, there'd be some common sense, I would say, dare I say, on that front, absolutely.
And for the parents out there who are taking their kids out catfishing, kudos to you, hats off. But why are you making your kids wear a life jacket and you're not?
Yeah, the example needs to be set, at a very early age. If they see it, they don't even comprehend it, they see it. And so they know it's something you're supposed to do, and even if they don't understand why, it gets in a child's psyche, gets in their brain, and it's like anything. It's a sponge, right? And it's the kind of thing you automatically put your seatbelt on in the car every time you get in, and your child sees it. They're just going to do it. It's like a motor, automatic reaction.
Absolutely.
Yep. Anything else, Barry?
No, that's about it, Brian. I'd like to wish the food fishers on the south and west coast, the Food Fishery Committee is not forgetting about you, and just hang in there. And they're trying their best to get this fishery open for you for 15 fish weekly limit. And most of the people on the south and west coast are in support of it. They don't want. Even when I was on committee, I heard they're not looking for more fish. They're just looking for safer conditions to do it in.
Absolutely. Well, I couldn't echo that 1,000%. And I'm sure they appreciate all the work. Some of them might say, okay, the East Coast got it now, they're going to leave you alone. No way. The lobby is just as loud and fervent as ever. So I'm sure it's appreciated, Barry.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Let's go to line number 1. And Mike Tiller, Canadian Blood Services, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good today. If I can find time, and obviously we should all, I'm going to go over and give some blood. I've been neglecting. I've just been trying to. It's ridiculous to say I didn't have time on a Saturday. I used to go on Saturdays, tried to make a regular thing of it, but boy, oh boy, it's been busy. It's no excuse. And now that supplies are again a little bit depleted, the push is on, hey?
Definitely, and we hear this every so often from Canadian Blood Services, and I can remember when I was mayor of the town, they put the need out,
yep.
And the town actually contacted Canadian Blood Services because there was a time when you'd had the mobile clinics set up. They used to come up and set up in the local high school, and there would be, well, in my opinion, a good turnout. They always had their slots full, and then they stopped coming,
yep.
And we reached out and said, please come back. We got a lot of donors here. And the reason we were given is that it's not, the price per unit of blood is not worth their coming out to do this mobile clinic.
The expenses, yeah. And look, Mike, I mean, this went from actual physical infrastructure buildings around the province or in central and west down to mobile units in order to, be more efficient, if you will. And then, of course, as you said, some places weren't getting the mobile units. So it just seemed to be a little bit of I was going to say a slow bleed, but not funny. But really, it just seemed to deplete a little bit. Now the mobile units are regular. They'll go to Clarenville, Bruin Peninsula, Central, and, come from the West Coast. It's unfortunate, but, the more access and more opportunity you have and the easier it is to give, the more you're going to give, right?
Most definitely. And that's where, and if there's, if cost is an issue, well, maybe again, and you hate to say that government funding, but there's got to be some grants, or got to be some philanthropist or somebody out there that can help fund these mobile clinics. I mean, whether it's a company in your town, or whether it's a group, or whether it's the town itself that can say, you know what, we'll help cover the cost if it means replenishing the blood bank. And I think again, it's all about. We have to stop doing things the way we used to, and we have to learn to work together in order to make this work. And if there was a set price that Canadian Blood Services came out with and said, you know, for your region it would cost us $5,000 to come out and do a blood clinic, well, then maybe the towns in the region could come up with that $5,000 and say, you know what, for the region of Bonavista North or CWT area or New West Valley, the towns chuck in $5,000 and help replenish the stock, because it affects the whole island. And if we're not willing to, help each other out, and I know times are tough, I know money is hard to come by, but we need to start working together more in order to make things like this happen, or else we're, to reach out. And again, it's no excuse, but when I go to St. John's and I only have 2 days, then 4 hours out of that time to give blood I don't have. And is it an excuse? Maybe. I've given many times, but to me it's not feasible. It's not worth my time.
Yeah, and I mean, staffing is an issue with everybody. It may not. I mean, obviously, the money, if you could have a direct injection that would, bring it right to your community, that's great. But I mean, obviously, the staffing has to be there, and then they have schedules and different places that they stop with these mobile units that they send on the road, right? And that's been able to serve them well. But when you have reductions and a need like they do right now, I think they've said over the last 6 weeks, the national inventories have fallen by 20%, and they say that's unusually fast pace. And even some saying they're just not quite sure why. So, and, August anyway is typically when hospitals can see a spike. You people out, doing more things in the summer, accidents occur, and God knows we know that, unfortunately, the last couple of weeks. And then you have the long weekend, too, which just encourages more people to get out and do stuff, and accidents happen. So you can probably imagine, demand is up, supply is down. We need to get more people in and more needles in arms.
Yeah, like I say, I totally agree with you. And if there was a cost associated with it, put out what the cost is, and you may get a company or you may get a person who has some, I don't know who, but who may have some extra cash and say, you know what, I'll cover the cost of this blood clinic and get them out and get the stock up. Because I don't think the issue is there's not enough donors. I just think, again, with our sparse population, where we're spaced out, same thing with trying to pave a road, trying to get blood from people is, it's not a simple process.
No, it's not. There's a mindset involved here too. And if you've ever had an experience where you needed blood or a family member needed it, you're probably donating all the time because you just know tangibly, common sense on the ground, how important it is. It is literally the gift of life. And I think I saw Gord Skiffington some comments, community development manager, and I know we have a call in to Blood Services. I think obviously they're flat out right now, so I think we're going to have a chat with them at some point. But they say the number of appointments fallen in the province by 1,500 or 2,500, up to 2,500. Appointments have fallen, and a lot of them, people are missing the appointments. They book them, but they just don't get to them, and they don't cancel them, which can block up, space that might have been available for somebody else at short notice.
Well, it's a generational thing. There's a generation out there that was used to donating and donated all the time. Yeah. And, those people are unfortunately unable to donate anymore, and the younger population is not jumping in as much, or there's a different I don't know about type of population, but there's a different population entity that maybe not used to donating. I don't know, but there's got to be a way to work around it.
Yeah, and I still say, years ago, of course, in the 1980s, the tainted blood scandal probably has never really gone away, unfortunately, even though it is completely and utterly safe to give blood today. And, the testing is done, it's been proven, and, but there was a massive, this public health disaster in the 80s where thousands of people got infected. And I don't mean to bring it up to dissuade people, but I think that's probably in the psyche too. It's 30, 40 years ago, right? So at the time, different system, different issues going on. We were still learning, and this happened. But I think in some people, generationally, that's still in the back of people's minds, even though I don't think it's a situation where they think it's not safe. I just think that kind of negativity sort of was ingrained in people at the time who remember it, and especially for anyone in the gay or LGBTQ community. That was real hot. There was a lot of blame, and it was just a really unfortunate situation, and led to the creation, of course, and Canadian Blood Services of taking over a lot of this, even though the Red Cross continues on with its many programs. So, yeah, there's always that lurking in the back for me, because I lived through it as well. I was old enough to remember all that.
For sure, yeah, I know exactly. One more quick thing, Brian. Hopefully we can get this figured out. But hats off to the boys who are doing the ride for PTSD.
Yes.
That condition will always have a unfortunate place in my psyche, and I'm glad that they're showing a bit of bringing it back into the spotlight again, and just letting people know that just because you're looking at somebody, you don't know what's going on with them.
Absolutely, you cannot judge a book, right, as they say, by its cover, by its face, by anything, really. You just don't know what's going on with the person next to you. There's no question about that. Not every affliction is visible, right?
Definitely not. It's not like a cast on an arm, for sure.
Oh, sir, absolutely. Mike, great call. Appreciate this today. It's important for us to talk about it and give blood. Everyone, give blood if you can. Definitely. Sign up, check it out. If you're not sure, you do have to kind of sign up for it and put all your information, of course, to keep the system safe. And no argument there. It doesn't take very long. You can go in and sit at a little monitor and do it all right on the spot. And you could be in getting your clearance to give blood within 15, 20 minutes. So, here on Wicklow Street or wherever you are in the province.
Right on, sir. Well, thanks for listening.
Appreciate it, and thanks for the call, Mike. Take care.
Bye-bye.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Let's go to line number 1. Ray, you're on the air.
Yeah, hello there.
Good morning.
You're on a wonderful job.
Thanks a lot. Not everybody agrees, but that's it. You can't please them all, hey?
No, that's right. No, they gave it a number on VOCM there a couple of days ago. I heard it, but I haven't heard it since. It's for if you smoked and you got emphysema or COPD, and then it's like a class action lawsuit and that.
Oh, you're talking about the overall tobacco claims settlement, I imagine, are you?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Let's see. Tobacco Claims Canada. Now I checked the other. Someone asked me about this. There is a site where there's a form you can fill out and give them all your information just to be accepted into the claim. But there is a phone number. Yeah, sure. I can give you a phone number. Let's see. So, boy, this is a wild one. There's a good story about. This one was great and newsworthy in this province, of course, if for no other reason that the former Liberal government included some of its tobacco settlement, a good portion of it, in the budgetary process, even before we had the money in hand, and sort of served to at least the current Tory government criticized the former Liberal government, saying that it artificially lowered the deficit, right? Because we didn't actually have the money in hand. But that's another story. Here we go, Ray. 1-888.
888
482
482
5852.
5852.
And I can give you an email too if you like, for you and anyone else who's listening. Info, 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 at.
INFO.
Yeah, and then it's at, the @ sign, and it's all one word, tobaccoclaimscanada.ca.
tobaccoclaimscanada.ca.
Yep. And I think there's let me see, there was a deadline. I don't think it's anytime soon. Actually, deadlines, from what I can see, extend into next year and probably up to September of next year. But again, if you go down that road, and again, the actual website is tobaccoclaimscanada.ca. And if you go on that site, there's a little form there, right, where you just fill in your own information. You can give them a call, of course, but this could be if you don't want to have to deal with anyone on the phone. You can just sign up. You put in a username and an email and a password, and then you can fill out a questionnaire, and that'll determine whether or not you can qualify for the settlement, as per se. I mean, you may need to follow up, and the phone number is good to have for that reason. So that should get you some information. How are you? How's your health?
I got COPD and emphysema. I used to be a hunting guide, and I had to give that up.
Oh, jeez.
And used to cut wood and everything. I can't do that now. And,
did you smoke all your life?
Pretty well. I gave up there about 15 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, and what do you make of, like, the stuff on the packages and all that stuff? Does it dissuade, like, would it have dissuaded you, like, to see, say, visual images of what's, smoking can do to you, what can do to your lungs and everything else?
Yeah, it didn't do any good, but I ended up in hospital with the double solid pneumonia and everything, and the tube on my side, and all that stuff, all the good stuff.
Yeah, geez, and I mean, I'm not going to ask your age, but you're up there now, and it's.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm 69. I'm 69 now.
Okay, and somewhat stable, quality of life, or?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I just can't rush around and do anything.
Yeah, no, obviously, right? Just the whole breathing and any kind of. Energy, any exertion and that sort of thing, and that would take away certainly a job of being able to be a guide like that.
I'm always up to the hospital, getting on the machine to COPD flares up and that.
Yeah, and this is part of the settlement, right? Because we do have many people, right, who afflicted years of smoking, and the settlement is designed to somehow compensate provinces for what we have to deal with as a result of that after the settlement was reached, $520 million, or I think what it was. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. But so the 520 we actually would get, Newfoundland and Labrador, I think 320, I think, well, whatever it was. There was several hundred million that was applied to the deficit. But in any event, it's supposed to offset the healthcare costs for people like yourself who just, it's not like it was...
on puffers and pills and the whole 6 yards.
Yeah. Well, boy, oh boy, the movie. I'm trying to remember the name now. The Whistleblower, the one that Russell Crowe starred in, is a great movie. Dave, do you remember that? The Whistleblower tobacco movie is right on the tip of my tongue. Russell Crowe. I'm not going to Google it because it's just it's too simple. It's going to drive me mad. Insider, I think. The Insider, I think it was called. Great. But it was legal, and we were led to believe it was safe, and now it's all coming home to roost. And now, God, don't get me started on the puffer and the vapes and all that kind of stuff. All of that's coming home to roost too. Led to believe so much safer than smoking. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, right on.
Appreciate it. Well, Ray, let me know if you have any luck, if you get anywhere with that as a follow-up call. Okay. If you have a moment or two, that'd be great to hear from you. Just, if you managed to get through it and if they accepted you as a claimant and, and what the process is like going through it, because I'm sure other people would be curious.
Oh, I would say, yeah. Okay, good luck, and thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Have a great day. Thanks a lot for the call.
Hey, you too. Yep. Bye-bye.
All right, a couple of minutes to go before we get to the 12 o'clock news. And, lots of emails there. I'm going to get to them. I caught up yesterday, but now I got a whole bunch to sift through and try to catch up a little more. And I did want to mention off the top here, of course, that I didn't get a chance off the top, but the man, of course, charged with those fires around the cell phone towers and along the pole lines, 30-year-old Patrick Greer, he had his second court appearance yesterday. Somebody was asking me about this. And rather than a bail hearing, of course, which you could kind of see coming, because when it changes from a bail hearing on the docket to a status update, and there were other charges, police had said he was a suspect in potentially other fires that were set at the same time. This was what they refer to as a status update, so which included more charges against him. So he now faces 11 in total, and that's 4 of arson, so 4 particular arsons, 4 mischief by damaging property, 3 of breaking and entering with intent, which basically means he broke into a site with an intent to do bad things, worse than just breaking in somewhere. So, he remains in custody. Next court date, I think, is August the 14th, if I'm not mistaken. And I would note again that there have been no reports of similar offenses, since he was arrested and jailed. So, you can read into that what you want. If there's no, all of a sudden it's gone silent on that end. And we now know that the incident over on Bell Island, near the airstrip yesterday, where RCMP were asking people to stay away, we're told now that a 58-year-old man was found dead near a vehicle in that area around 8:30 yesterday morning, and pretty vague and not a lot of information at the time, but we now know that. And I know the RCMP, as I mentioned earlier, they're holding a briefing at this next hour, I believe. Is it, Sarah, was that 12 o'clock, that news conference, the RCMP news conference? What time was that? Oh, okay. So an hour ago, I guess. So this is part of that news conference. I think they were going to give an update on a couple of things, mostly having to do with the wildfires in CBN last year. More light they were able to shine on that, as well as the Bell Island, and as I mentioned earlier, whether or not there was anything new on the fire at the Driftwood Hotel. in Deer Lake, which destroyed the hotel there. I got a couple of emails asking me again if there's any update on that. I'm not sure if that was spoken to, if anyone got a question in edgewise to see where that's going. Of course, a 77-year-old man from the United States was killed in that, and it's been 2 years now since, just going on 2 years, that occurred, and the investigation, from what I understand, is still ongoing. I don't think we've told that it has ended. So I'm not sure if anything came out of that, but we can renew that request too in response to a couple of emails that we got this morning, just wondering where it all ended up. Thanks, everyone, for your calls, your emails, and your comments, and your contributions. Drive safely. Arrive alive. VOCM cares.